Welcome into your FreightWaves Now Community Spotlight for your Wednesday morning, and happy Valentine's Day. I'm Kaylee Nix here with Alan Adler. And Alan, today we are showing a lot of love to one of our favorite companies here at Truck Tech, talking all about Volvo and the brand new look at the very exciting tech coming out. Also, big shout out to them for sponsoring this segment as well as the Truck Tech newsletter and show. Let's dig into it because you got the first look at something exciting coming off of their production lines.
Well, and it's significant, Kaylee, in a bunch of ways. First of all, the VNL really does have a great history to it. It goes back, wasn't called the VNL back in 1996 when they first started with aerodynamic looking trucks. But Volvo really did a big piece of what came to be known as aerodynamic truck design. And this is the latest version of that. This now will be sort of a global platform for all the future technologies at Volvo. Starting here in North America with the VNL, 4 versions of that truck. All of them will go into production in the third quarter. So what we got to see here in Virginia was some prototypes, early prototypes. Had a chance to drive those, and what's really interesting is it's not like driving them; they drive themselves, and eventually they will, because this is the platform that will underlie or underpin the autonomous truck that Volvo will do with Aurora. But before that, they will do a version that is for today's truckers. It is still a diesel truck, but it is the big claim they're making, and they really did break it down for us, is how it's going to essentially save 10% or have 10% better fuel efficiency than the current truck, and save about $20,000 a year overall for the purchaser. Again, they break that down. I won't go into all of that here, but it's done through aerodynamics. It's done through a number of powertrain changes. And interestingly enough, our episode today will be with Chris Adler, who is the program manager for long haul. And Chris will kind of give us an overview. I guess you'd call this maybe the first in a loose series of episodes that we'll do on Truck Tech about this vehicle, because there's an awful lot to cover. We won't be able to do all of it today, but Chris gets us started with some of the talk about how the automotive industry really inspired some of the packaging that Volvo is doing with the VNL, from powertrain to safety to comfort features, things that, when you buy a car, you might go and get, the comfort package or something like that. So you're seeing a similar approach now from Volvo, and they're looking to basically cut down the number of build combinations that they do here in the New River Valley, which is where the plant is in Virginia, in Dublin. And they're also looking at, saving, as we said a moment ago, the customer some money.
So, Alan, if you go into Volvo's website and just search VNL, it pulls up 5 versions, and all of them look fabulous. They are super, super beautiful trucks. You can definitely tell that they're paying attention to the aerodynamics of this truck if you look at kind of the angles and the clean lines on some of the mock-ups and some of the photography that they've put on the website. And I really like the point that you raised about a lot of these features not just being designed for efficiency, not just being designed for safety, but also being designed for comfort, because I think that it addresses something that is kind of an underlying thread in the industry, is that a comfortable driver is a happier driver, is more likely to stay on with their fleet, is likely to feel a little bit more taken care of as an employee, and thus reduces that very pesky turnover rate that we talk about all the time, right? Knowing that Volvo is now not just focused on the quality of their trucks, they're also looking at the quality and the comfort of the driver. Does that put maybe the driver in a really good position to advocate for some of these fleets to invest in this tech like this?
Well, I think the fleets that got a look at it, they had 150, Volvo did, of their largest customers last fall come in and look at a very early version, and they were pretty pleased with it. We talk about the reward truck, if you will. I think that might be what you're referring to in terms of the best drivers get the best equipment. There's really not much in the way of drawbacks on this particular truck. I mean, everything on the interior, from literally a Murphy bed in terms of how the sleeper system works, where you can fold the bed up into the back of the truck and pull out a little dinette where you can do paperwork or have a meal or whatever, bigger refrigerator, a number of things, all of which are related to another technological advance, which is a 24-volt electric system. Almost everybody runs 12 volt, and this does convert certain functions to 12 volt. But sort of more power, less amps being burned, and ultimately another sign of efficiency. But I think to your question about retention, I suspect that this would be a truck that could do that. Most of the trucks today are coming along with comfort features. I mean, Volvo a few years ago took us through their dynamic steering, which basically saves the whole idea of, really getting Popeye arms from turning the steering wheel on the truck. And what we're looking at now is technology that basically makes this, at least in my very brief exposure today, this thing drives like an SUV. It really does. I kept the Volvo people kept saying, "Well, what'd you think? What'd you think?" I said, "Well, I don't feel like I drove it. I felt like it drove me." And in the sense of, all of the work that's been done in the suspension and other areas to smooth things out and to just make it so much less effort to drive with 80,000 pounds behind you. Believe me, you can forget that 80,000 pounds is back there.
And that opens up the window for many more people to feel comfortable driving a tractor trailer as well. So you know what? Open up the job pool a little bit more. Alan, let's talk a little bit about the newsletter coming up on Friday of this week. Who are we talking to and what's in there this week?
Well, I had an idea over the weekend, something that, again, it happened to be something that started at Volvo a couple, maybe 2.5 years ago. And it was this idea of using electric trucks, which were still then very new and now are still in their early days, for inbound logistics at Volvo plants. And so I wanted to take a look. We saw recently that a Daimler truck sent a couple of e-Cascadia Freightliners down to Mexico for inbound logistics at their plant there. It turns out they actually have been doing it at their plants in the U.S. Really since last year. I wasn't even aware of that. But so we're going to take kind of a look across the industry at who's using electric trucks this way and what kind of use cases does it make. And then in our 5 Minutes With segment, we'll talk with Volvo because they did start this about what they've learned in about 95,000 miles of very short runs, from their suppliers over to the plant. They started with 8 stops and now they've got, I think it's 50 locations that they go to. So just a chance to drill down a little bit into electrification and where are the best use cases. So I thought it'd be kind of an interesting segment, and that's what we'll lead with this week.
There you go. So make sure that you get signed up for that Truck Tech newsletter. Will come out. Hit your inbox on Friday mornings. Alan, before we let you go, it is Valentine's Day, and we know that Volvo is our sponsor here. You got them in the newsletter and in the show. But I got to know, anybody else you want to throw a little bit of a love to on this Valentine's Day?
Well, it's got to be my bride of 33 years, Deb. Love her to death, and just miss her when we go on the road. We'd love to do this stuff out on the road as we have opportunity, but we do miss being at home. And so happy Valentine's Day, Deb.
Great stuff, Alan. Thank you for joining us here on this Community Spotlight. Of course, we'll catch Truck Tech, the show, later on this afternoon, and your newsletter on Friday. Go show us a little bit of love. Subscribe to Truck Tech as well as to the rest of our community's newsletters. We'll see you guys later this week.